Are you consistent? Recently, I was coming down hard on myself because I felt like I wasn't being consistent in a couple of things or in a few areas of my life, and it was bothering me. I felt like I wasn't doing enough. I wasn't keeping my promises to myself, and I was letting other people down, and wasn't doing what I thought I should be doing, or I just wasn't being consistent enough. And I wonder if you ever feel this way. I realized that it was actually other people's rules of what consistency should look like that I was getting caught up in. And when I took some time to think about this and I started thinking of all the areas that I am consistent in, I took a big inhale and breathed a little easier. But there's a lot of things that we try to accomplish in a day. And I think if you break it apart between, say, your physical body, household stuff, things around your home, you break that up into family, into work, your leisure time, maybe your spiritual practice, and it's a challenge to stay consistent. And we hear over and over how important it is to stay consistent. And to back that up, we are usually flooded with numbers. We have to do this thing X amount of times, either per day or per week for this long in order to, succeed or, have good habits. And you start to pile this stuff up in a day and it can get very overwhelming. And when you are not necessarily consistent in one thing, it can make you feel, like you can't ever get there. And so I wonder with, let's say, like your physical health, how consistent are you and what feels good? Like, what level of consistency feels good to you? Because I really feel like we have to have power over our own consistency. And it made me think of, say, the physical, with whether you do cardio or weights or, yoga and stretching, there's a lot that it's important for our health to stay consistent with. But what happens, let's say you're consistently doing cardio 4 days a week for 45 minutes, and then, there's some little life transition that happens. Maybe it's just something with your work schedule, or you've had some sick kids or whatever, and you get thrown off the loop, and it takes you a month or more to get back onto that consistent level. Like, what happens inside of you when you break that consistent habit? Do you continue to then be inconsistent in other areas? Or do you realize, okay, this is a minor setback and I will become consistent again? And I think of our physical health as what we are consistent with in one area. Maybe we're not so much in the other area, and we have to look at that and figure out, well, what's more important? Where do I want to be more or the most consistent? And one thing I know I'm consistent in every day is, hey, I floss every night, I shower every morning. I try to get up at about 5 a.m. and get a workout in, but you know what? There's just those days or sometimes an entire week, not so much. I'm not feeling it. I'm tired. And so I give myself rest. And which leads me to a whole nother topic. What about your leisure life? Do you consistently give yourself rest? Do you consistently allow time in your schedule to play or do things that fill you up, that bring you joy and rejuvenate you instead of staying consistently hard on yourself to have maybe this rigid schedule of you always have to be doing, you always have to be accomplishing something, whether it is something around the home or something at work or, keeping up those relationships or, going to the gym or fitting in this exercise. Do you allow spaces like consistently in your schedule where you can just chill out, do something just for you that you love? I think that one is a tough one for a lot of people because we are so used to doing things and 100% go all the time that often we are not consistent with our leisure time and we almost have to force it. And it's really important. So that is the physical and the leisure part. And then what about around the home? Are you consistent around the home? Are you consistent with your chores? I'd say I'm pretty consistent with like weekly washings of our sheets, but I thought of the kids, especially the younger two, not so much. Yeah, they might go 3 weeks. Oof, I don't know. The older two, I was so great about washing their sheets when they were little. These 2, I'm like, "Yeah, every once in a while, pull your sheets off, throw in the wash. We should probably change now. I'm not sure what's growing in there." So, I don't know. I think it's that question of what is important for you to be consistent with. It's really important for me to keep my toilets and my floors clean. That is just a huge thing for me. Now, when it comes to dusting, not so much. Can't say I'm all that consistent with that. The dishes, sometimes those breakfast dishes sit there until dinner. That's just how it is. Some days I'm really consistent. I go a whole week where I do 3 loads of laundry every day. Yes, we have a big family. And then all of a sudden I'll go 3, 4 days where I don't do any laundry. So I have 20 loads to keep up on. It's always gets done at some point, right? And then think about family. How are you consistent with your family life? Are you consistent with dinner time, or you at least consistently have some food in the house? Do you tell people in your family that you love them on a consistent basis? Do you show love in other ways? Do you spend quality time together? Try to do one-on-one time together? How are you consistent in your family life? And maybe ask the question, where would you like to be more consistent? And what is something that you consistently do that you could maybe drop? Just get rid of. It's not that important. Or maybe it's a habit that you aren't particularly fond of that you do. I'd like to be less consistent in this. When it comes to, say, your spiritual growth, are you consistent with, say, journaling, getting outside in nature, maybe meditating and having prayer time or quiet time, or whatever it is that you're into to have more of that spiritual connection with yourself and in this bigger universe that we live in? Because I personally believe in God and that our bigger, higher power is God. And I feel spiritual when I am guided by the Holy Spirit, when I'm out in nature, when I do things, and when I use my intuition and, listen to that higher power, and I can follow that that inner wisdom or that intuition. So, whatever you believe in, whether it's God or some other sort of higher power, are you consistently trying to tune into that spiritual side of yourself, which really comes down to your intuition and knowing that there is something greater than you out there that is guiding you? And then the final area I thought of when it came to consistency was work. And this was one of those I think I was really struggling with because, in a coaching session that I was in more on, how to grow your business and do things like that, it's just full of all of these things that, you should do on a consistent basis. And I was not doing all of them. I was struggling mostly with two things, and that was sending out emails and, really kind of nurturing my little community and that email list on a consistent basis. It would be, I was doing great weekly for a while, and then it turned into every other week, and then it was like maybe once a month, and now it just Eh, not that consistent. Would I like to be more consistent? Yes. But what I also found was that I may not be that consistent right now in those emails. I have consistently been sitting my butt down in a chair and writing the book that I am currently working on because for months I was not consistent because my focus was in too many other areas. And that is my number one priority right now. And even when it comes to consistency in this podcast, I started to realize that I'm pretty consistent with putting something out here once a week. But again, another course, another training I took, you have got to be so consistent. If you say you're going to do do it once a week. You have to do it on that same day every week, or drop that new episode. And I'm pretty consistent with doing once a week, but sometimes it's dropped on Tuesday, sometimes it's Wednesday, sometimes it's Thursday, sometimes it's Friday, but I sneak it in. And you know what? That's what I've got right now. That's what I have. And I think what my biggest takeaway from all of this, well, actually, with at work, I did think of one more thing. I need to back up. I also consistently show up for people, though, for work. I'm really good about returning emails and even, showing up for clients and texting them back or, emailing them back. Or if I said I'm going to deliver something to them, whether it's a worksheet or things like that, I follow through on that. And I think it's a good reminder of look at all the ways that you are consistent. And when it comes to all of these different areas, some things we are going to be continuously consistent in for our whole lives. It's just a no-brainer. Whether it's, maybe you're just a great healthy eater and you always have been and you always will be, and you do not derail a whole lot from that. And if you do, you're right back on the bandwagon the next day. Other people, that's their struggle, but they're super consistent in some other beneficial way in their lives. We all have our things we excel at, things that we're mediocre at, and the things we need to work on, right? But I think the biggest takeaway for me and really looking at this whole consistency thing, and again, refresher, I was just feeling down. I was being really hard on myself. That's why I wanted to look at this. And I thought of the quote by Albert Einstein, and it is an object in motion stays in motion. And I thought, well, good, that's me. I'm always in motion. I'm taking action. I'm doing something. Although I might not be super consistent in this area in my life at this time, I'm consistent in these 13 other areas in my life. And it's not that I'm going to stop being consistent in that area. It's just that I need a pause. I need a break. I'm not stuck there. I'm not stagnant. I will continue to take action, but right now it's a slowing down of it. And I also thought of the biggest thing is, am I consistently making an effort? So ask yourself that when you feel like you're kind of in a rut, you used to be, so great at doing XYZ and now not so much, and you feel like you want to be consistent again, ask yourself, are you at least consistently making an effort? Are you an object in motion? Are you staying in motion? Are you doing something? Are you taking some sort of action? Are you showing up? And another thing on the flip side, though, is to ask, or am I continuously making excuses? Am I consistent at making excuses? Am I consistently overcommitting? Am I consistently making these unrealistic demands on myself 24 hours a day? Because think about it. If you met all of those shoulds that you should be consistent in 24 hours a day, yeah, there's just not enough hours. We're looking at a 40-hour day. If you really think about a typical day, what are we supposed to get? 7 to 8 hours of sleep. How many hours a day do you spend maybe shopping for food, prepping food, eating the food, cleaning up after, all of your meals? A 9 to 5 job with a commute on either end could be 10 hours out of your day. You have children that you're trying to take care of, and family and relationships that you're trying to spend time with. And to get that leisure time in, or a few minutes to practice, all those spiritual practices you do, and then take care of your physical body. If you do work out, you might be sweaty and you need a shower and to get ready. If you start adding up all of these hours of what we should do on a consistent basis, it comes up to like 40 every day. It's just impossible. So the demands that we put on ourselves to be consistent, I think it's more realistic to ask yourself, am I an object in motion? Am I at least taking action in some sort of way? And think about one other thing. If you are not being consistent with X, you are probably being consistent with Y. And Which one's more important? Is X more important or Y more important? And there's your answer. And let the other one go for now. Doesn't mean it's forever, but for now. And allow yourself to change in through this of what you want to really focus on. But just remember, you're not giving up. You didn't fail. It's not permanent. It's okay to hit pause. So, with consistency, I really kind of want to hit that home because there is power in consistency. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of power in that, but seek guidance. Seek your own guidance, seek guidance from others, seek guidance from that higher power because ultimately you really need to go with your intuition and trust your own inner wisdom. And then you can take inspired action and you'll definitely get someplace further and with a lot less stress. We don't need to be so hard on ourselves. And with that said, be real, be raw, be authentic.